Praise the Lord. Psalm 128 says, "Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. When you eat the labor of your hands, you shall be happy, and it shall be well with you. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine in the very heart of your house. Your children like olive plants all around your table. Behold, thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. The Lord bless you out of Zion, and may you see the good of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Yes, may you see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel." And I think about over the last 25 years, since I received Christ, and reading this book, and how it has blessed me, as I've read about prophets and priests and kings, and read the Psalms, and read the New Testament, and this is a living book. And yet it's a book that was written in Israel, and God, one that God revealed himself to the Jewish people, and he revealed himself through the Jewish people. And as Christians, I believe we owe the Jewish people a tremendous debt. One, unfortunately, that I think the church has rarely ever paid. But, I believe God is changing. He's changing the church. And, I'm praying the day is going to come that the church is going to be the ones that are standing with Israel, and that as the church, that we will turn our face and not our back towards the Jewish people. So I'm really excited tonight to have Noam Bedein all the way from Serdot in Israel. And I'd like you to give him a round of applause as he comes to speak tonight. Praise the Lord. So are you going to do it from back down there? Are you going to come up? Okay, great. Praise God. God bless you.
Hey, shalom everyone. It's a really great honor being here this evening. God bless you, John, for flying me all the way from Israel today. It's wonderful being here. It's not that obvious I'm able actually to speak in front of an audience here in Ireland, I'll be honest. I just got a briefing from the embassy this morning saying that every Israeli that comes here to the country, trying to speak up, presenting, or even having any kind of cultural event, would always have protesters or people trying to bash them out of getting off the stage. So it's not that obvious being able to spread the message and bringing the truth to this place. So it's a really great honor being here. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, so what I'm presenting here in a very short while is a very powerful experience and story that I've personally been experiencing firsthand. You'll be seeing today my personal documentation, my presentation, my photography work, trying to show firsthand this experience of living today in Israel, this controversy of one hand living under this constant terrorism aspect, this whole threat, on the other hand showing the beauty and the enchanted aspect of the land of Israel. And that's my purpose today, to try showing this in a very limited time, showing this firsthand. So we could go straight to the map. Just trying to show you guys what is it we're talking about. If we have more time afterwards during the questions and answers, why I actually use this map, we'll be seeing in a second. I'll just show you exactly where is it we're actually located, showing you what is it we're actually talking about here this evening. So if you could see the Gaza Strip, there we go. The northern part of the Gaza Strip, if you go up north, 1 kilometer away from the Gaza Strip, this is where I'll be talking about, the city called Sderot. Okay, it's a 45-minute drive to Tel Aviv, which is the center of Israel. It's an hour and 15 to Jerusalem. Okay, it's a tiny little country. It takes you literally 2 hours across, 5 hours north to south. All this focus put upon this tiny little country is amazing. And so I think that's part of the experience of living here 1 kilometer away from the Gaza Strip, is trying to explain to people that once a rocket is being fired from Gaza towards Sderot, and this whole borders with Gaza, you have more or less 15 seconds or less to run for your life. And the question is, how do you get across to people having 15 seconds? What can you possibly do in 15 seconds? Okay, imagine to yourself sitting like this in a congregation on the Gaza border. Okay, you have a siren going off. You'll be seeing in a second. What does it mean having a siren going off? You have a siren go off. All of you at the same time get out of your chairs, hoping to run through that one door. okay, with other people all around, reaching a bomb shelter less than 15 seconds. This became the experience in the past 15 years living on the Gaza border, more or less. You can have relatively quiet times, more intense times. I'll be talking about this as we go on, how intense, how surreal this actually is. The more we get deeper into this unique conflict, this unique experience, a little hard to explain that what happens in our borders impacts all the way back here. And it personally experienced dark elements all around the world, being more acceptable in political parties, on campuses worldwide. The truth is, when I speak today on college campus, especially when I go speaking in the States, as you can hear my American accent, right? I'm actually born and raised in Israel. I mean, what is Israel? You have Jews coming from over 100 nationalities coming back to the homeland, which is a miracle on its own in the 20th century. And part of the experience, I grew up speaking English at home. So that's why I could speak my English in American kind of accent. But anyways, when I speak today on college campus, I have to have a bodyguard. Okay, I've been threatened not once and not twice. I have demonstrators demonstrating against me just because I'm coming from Israel today. And it's not that obvious, as I said before, speaking up and presenting accurately what's been happening, especially on this border, how unique this actually is. So before even going on showing you guys the first video calling 15 seconds, let me ask you guys the most basic questions. How do you guys get your information about Israel or about the conflict? What would you guys tell me? Media. What kind of media, being more specific? Internet, newspapers, TV. One second. So if you think about it for a second, what we know today on the other side of the world usually is what we hear, see, and read through media elements. This is usually our perspective outside our own reality and what's called bubble. I can tell you that even in Israel, almost every other day, or once in 2 weeks, once in 3 weeks, are mentioning how 2 rockets fired from Gaza exploded nearby Sderot or near Ashkelon, the nearest city. No injuries, no harm done. Maybe 2 people were treated for shock. And moving on to the weather report. And the question is, can 5 seconds of raining, even in Israel, can this give us the understanding, the concept of the meaning of being constantly under rocket fire? What goes through your mind almost every single day when you leave your doorstep, what became very acceptable? So overall, we've been experiencing a very unique experience that's not been getting coverage all around the world. And by the way, the first question I ask my audience on the other side of the world is, who here heard about Gaza beforehand? Who here heard about Sderot? Before going on explaining how unique Sderot actually is, let me show you guys a short video. This video is a very dramatic video. Okay, I'm already saying this right now. It's the first video on YouTube. If you just write 15 seconds Sderot, you'll be seeing here live documentation that I personally took. If it's the first day of school, documenting children on the way to school, somehow a lot of timing of the rockets. And the first thing, actually my first experience moving to this town was waking up every single morning with a siren going off, followed by an explosion. From 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning, having a siren going off, followed by an explosion. Can anybody guess why, by the way, first thing in the morning? Okay, first thing in the morning, people are on the way to shop, to work, and the children on the way to the kindergartens and schools. That was my experience moving to this town almost 10 years ago. Anyways, in this short video, we documented the children the first day of school a couple of years ago. We knew that something is going to be happening that morning. On the way to schools, we had sirens going off. Be hearing the loudspeaker with a woman's voice saying in Hebrew, Tseva Adom, which means color red, red alert. We had like 7 explosions into the town. And we filmed the children running for their lives into the school itself. This footage was broadcast around to the world through BBC and Fox News, CNN. In Israel, is going on the news channels on a loop all the time. The next morning, the newspapers in Israel, what does it mean to have 15 seconds or less to run for your life? So try imagining, this is still the current situation, even though it has been relatively quiet. A little hard to explain that the quieter it gets, the more you expect the next incoming rocket towards this region. So let me show you the 15 seconds, showing how intense, how surreal this actually is, having a siren going off, followed by an explosion. Okay.
מתי אתה פה מהבוקר? מה אתה יכול לספר לי על הפעילות? שעשרות כאלה.
ואיך היה היום? אתה יכול לספר מה היה?
בסדר, היה טרפולינות.
וואו.
That's the 15-second video. Usually after showing this video, I have everybody's attention. So this is when I start all over from the beginning. Shalom, everyone. My name is Noam Bedein. I moved to this town almost 10 years ago. I lived there for 5 years, in the most intense years, having between 3 to 5 rocket attacks per day. I've personally experienced hundreds, if not thousands of rockets exploding into this town itself. A little hard to explain globally, to explain to people, this became the only region in the entire Western world having rockets, missiles are being fired and threatening civilian populations for the past over a decade. And somehow people did not even hear about this rocket reality. And we just had, on your next visit to Israel, I definitely do recommend that. It's amazing getting this contrast. Like I said before, one hand, you feel the most secured place in the world, just walking around, feeling not fearing for your life. On the other hand, having this intense kind of a situation, be amazed if you just walk around this entire region, just talk to people, be amazed to realize how every single person in this town, community, and region has the experience of a rocket explode nearby. From experience, once you've experienced a rocket explode nearby, your life has changed at that moment. What goes through your mind almost every single day when you leave your doorstep is when and where the siren is going to go off, where is it going to catch you, if you'll have enough time to run for shelter, where the rocket is going to explode. Even for me today, as I flew in, I had 2 flights coming into Dublin, and as I'm falling asleep on the plane, you have the stewardess taking the microphone. As they turn on the microphone, you have the right as they turn it on, or in the airports. Once you have the going off, for me in my mind, I wake up with my heart beating like crazy, because for me it's a sign that the siren is about to go off, and you have 15 seconds to run for your life. It's the small things that make the entire difference, living constantly under rocket fire. And I'll be honest, when I moved to this town, at the time there's no public office, government office, or press center to speak out for the residents. I took it upon myself to try speaking up, presenting this ongoing rocket reality. I came very fast to realize I were the only ones trying to speak up, presenting this around to the world. I've been traveling around the world to speak about this. After 15 years being under rocket fire, people did not even hear about this yet. It's a very big challenge sometimes in 5 minutes, half an hour, to go explain about a very unique situation, a very unique experience. This became part of our challenge today. To explain how unique this actually is, the question is to be asking, what other country in the world will tolerate only one rocket being fired towards its territory? The fact is, if I ask you guys, according to different media elements you've been hearing, listening, and reading about, how many rockets have been fired from Gaza towards Israel since giving what's called land for peace? Israel gave land for peace in August 2005. Can anybody guess how many rockets have been fired from Gaza towards Israel in the past decade? Only according to what you've been listening, hearing about? And over 24,000 rockets. 24,000 rockets, experiencing live coincidences, depending on luck, a Russian roulette reality, depending on miracles. A little hard to explain to people, became very part of this daily routine life, living this part of the region. And this is my personal experience, chasing these rockets and documenting live scenes that do not make sense, which somehow became part of the daily routine life. What's amazing to talk about this rocket reality, I'll be showing more footage in a second. People are choosing to move into this town today. Now why do people still live in this town? That's a question I'll be answering as we go on, explaining how unique this situation actually is, how this is representing the microcosm of the entire Israeli society, what the Israeli society today, what the state of Israel today is standing for. It really is that powerful experiencing one of the most bombarded cities since World War II, and people are still choosing to move into this town today. Okay, it's a beautiful city, beautiful park areas. I'll be showing you very soon different photographs showing the true resilience of this region. That's something which is very powerful to experience firsthand, especially these days. Okay? At the same time, being realistic, last Thursday, the headlines of the newspapers in Israel were saying how we're getting ready for the next confrontation with Hamas. What is Hamas? Hamas is an international terrorist organization that calls out for genocide on their charter. Seeing their acceptance here in political parties here in Ireland, okay, having over $4.5 million each year from the Irish aid going to Gaza controlled by Hamas. Outrageous, where actually budgets actually go to, not dealing with the roots of the problem. A lot to get into, unfortunately, never enough time. I have the challenge in 40 minutes to try explaining what's been getting 5 seconds of rating, being under rocket fire, and that's all on its own, that's quite an experience and quite a challenge. So I'll go straight on to the number 3 video. Okay, I showed this video at the Human Rights Council a couple of years ago. By the way, does anybody know what country is running the Human Rights Council? 1 second with the video. Does anybody know what country is running the Human Rights Council in the UN? Saudi Arabia. What country was running the Human Rights Council 5-6 years ago? Libya. Next one in line, Syria. 500,000 people have been butchered in Syria. Any massive demonstrations here downtown Dublin? Any outrage whatsoever around the world? All this focus put upon this conflict about Israel is outrageous compared to any other conflict in the Middle East or around the world. Where else in the world do you have Christians being persecuted on a daily basis? A lot to explain again, how unique this really is, and all this focus put upon our region. It's quite the challenge. Anyways, I flew to Geneva, to the UN Human Rights Council. I had a half an hour. I gave a testimony to UN judges condemning Israel for war crimes, protecting their citizens. I was the only one from this town, Sderot, having the opportunity to express in half an hour, presenting 8 years being under rocket fire at the time. What I did is I showed this short video capturing a live documentation by just being there at the right time, the right place, and check out children's reaction being under rocket fire, which is part of the education aspect that we have inside the Israeli culture and society, how to still have a smile on your face while you're running for cover. So check out this live documentation, being there at the right time, the right place. This is number 3.
תפוס את הגן ברקע, יש לכם את הגן ברקע. תופעה, דבר ראשון. דבר שני.
אני פה.
ילדים, מה אנחנו עושים כשיש ספר? אז זה היה יותר בלהט, הילדים היו עומדים כאן בחצר, היו ממש מכריזים צבע אדום, ממש היו בכוננות כזו. היו כאן ילדים, היינו רואים אותם מכינים מיגון בחצר, היו חופרים, כן, ממש היו ערוכים, מתכוננים וערוכים לצבע אדום. אבל היום ברוך השם, פחות בגלל שזה פחת בזמן האחרון. זה פחת, ברוך השם.
גם כל המיגונים פה זה חדש, נכון?
כן, הנה, בבקשה, לייב. כל הילדים נכנסו למקלט. פתחנו פה. כל הילדים רוצים, מה, תזמנתם את זה? כל הילדים לחדר לטפל. אנחנו יושבים
What just happened here? We went to the kindergarten, talking to the kindergarten teacher, right? While we were speaking to her, we had a siren going off. We noticed the children knowing exactly where to run for shelter. What happened once they reached the shelter? What did you guys notice? What happened once they reached the bomb shelter? They started having a countdown, right? 10, 9, 8. What happened when they reached 0? What happened then? What did you notice? Okay. They start singing a song. Why did they start singing a song? Okay, they start singing out loud so they wouldn't hear the explosion of the rocket exploding right next to them. Okay? So there we have a short video with no physical damages, no injuries, no harm done. It shows you the routine that children sometimes are expected to be living through on a daily basis sometimes. By the way, this mentality was taught 2 summers ago during the Gaza war we had, affecting up to 75% of Israeli population and territory, teaching children that while they're running for shelter, have a smile on your face and have a creative song to put together. And that's part of the mentality, to try maintaining a daily routine life in this kind of situation. And unfortunately, being realistic and optimistic as much as we can, it's just a matter of time to the next rocket escalation. And how this affects all the way back over here, we'll talk about this as we go on as well. Literally, what comes out from this region impacts all the way back here and around the world. Going back to the story itself, like I said, like I telling you guys before, the experience moving to this town was waking up every single morning with a siren going off. I came to realize that many of the schools, elementary schools, their first lesson in school was a drawing lesson, giving the children a platform to express themselves through drawings. And I collected many of these drawings, just showing people the same pattern. You know, if it's a regular house, a house in a tree, in a rocket, having a very unique situation when every single person has experienced this. When you give people a platform to express themselves, the result you actually get is a very unique kind of result. This is what we have today to present our story. We have a very powerful human story like no other place in the world today. By expressing this out, we have what to share with people around the world. So I'll pass this around for you guys to see this from up close. You're definitely welcome to take any pictures. Look how much expression you actually have in this drawing over here. Look at this. You have here the sun is sad. People here are smiling. It just shows how normal this actually is. I'll show you one amazing drawing over here. Look at this drawing over here. I'll pass this around for you to see this from up close. Okay, we had a campaign in Sderot, in this town, 1 year after what's called Operation Kasled. This is a military operation in January 2009. 1 year after that, we had children in this town were drawing pictures and letters to children in Gaza, saying how they're dreaming to living here side by side, playing the same playground, hoping for a better future. If you think about it for a second, these 9-year-olds do not know any other reality except running for their lives, rockets, explosions, 15 seconds of explosions, but still having this hope of living here side by side. That truly is the education we do get back at home eventually, always trying to be more optimistic, always dreaming about a better future. While at the same time, we have the latest documentation, how entire generation in the Gaza Strip being trained in military summer camps. That's the difference. What is it you're teaching the next generation with? Are you teaching it to hate, to love? That's exactly what the focus needs to be upon over here. If I just read this powerful letter written by a 9-year-old, Dear children in Gaza, hello, understand what you're feeling. Here in Sderot, we have rockets falling, and I know what you're going through. I wish that Israel will live with peace. I wish you'll have a long and happy life. God forbid there should be any war. If there is, you should feel more protected. I know you think we are monsters, but you should know that we're suffering here as well. Wishing you all the best, Ariel. This is a 9-year-old from Sderot, been running his entire life from rocket fire, still having this hope of living here side by side. That's a very powerful aspect of this Israeli mentality overall, what this town today is standing for. And before I forget, who actually lives in this town, Sderot? It's amazing seeing this firsthand. Sderot was established, if I go back to the map itself, the reason why I use this map in front of diplomats or foreign press, okay, not going to get too much into the political aspect, but I show this controversial political map, making things very clear that Sderot, where the white is, this is considered by the international community, this is considered Israel by all means. It is not considered settlements, if you more into the politics. This is Israel sovereignty by all means. This area was established like in the 50s. Whoever came here were Jews that fled the Muslim countries on North Africa at the beginning of the 50s, okay? At the same time, Jews coming from Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Yemen, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, moving to this region, okay? 35 years ago, we have Jews coming from former Soviet Union countries, from Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Jews. Okay, since 2006, we have Jews coming from Northeast India, Myanmar, Peru. We call them the Lost Tribes, moving to this region. We have over 50 Muslim Arab families living in this town, Sderot. 50 Muslim Arab families living in Sderot. A couple of Christians living out here in this town. Over 1,000 Sudanese, Eritreans, Africans that immigrated to this part of the region. All the villages around Sderot, you have the entire Latin American countries. You have a kibbutz, which is a village of Jews coming from Argentina or from Brazil. Overall, when you get across to people having a diversity of people's backgrounds, beliefs, behavior, living here peacefully together and being targeted only because they're considered today living in the land of Israel. That's the concept today of Israel, what it's standing for today, the microcosm of the entire Western civilization today, having a diversity of people living here together, and the reasoning behind everything is what they're standing for, the values they're standing for today. This true threat today that in the Western world do not recognize or want to even talk about of radical Islam, of literally worshiping the death, glorifying terrorism, what's so called. A little hard to express that to people today with what people have been exposed throughout the world. It starts with this unique experience of Sderot, like no other place in the country or in the world, of being completely been bombarded, specifically in this town, Sderot, by the way. When I moved to this town, I went for a month and a half around this community to get a formal and professional understanding about this rocket reality. I'll never forget the experience. of walking into the security officer's office. I walk into his office, and I see on a wall a map of Sderot with dots indicating where these rockets have exploded. The security officer was telling me that 7 years ago at the time, he stopped putting dots on this map because you want to notice there's a map of Sderot. It's trying to explain that literally every single road, every single community, every single family and child has the experience of a rocket exploding nearby, literally. And that's part of the experience, having a very unique situation. Let me show you the outcome of the rocket fire, what Israel has done to protect its citizens, investing billions of euro overall in protecting its citizens. Because first of all, we care about civilian lives. We do anything I can to protect our civilians. And this is the latest video. If you just go on YouTube and write the bomb shelter capital of the world, this is the video showing the live documentation. Israel investing only in this town, Sderot, around 120 million euros only for protecting this town Sderot with bomb shelters. And that's the image. If you come visiting this region, you see with your own eyes what Israel has done to protect its citizens. So therefore, when we protect our citizens so much, okay, therefore you have less physical damages, less physical injuries, very hard to present, for Israel to present its side of the story being under rocket fire, because no physical damages, no injuries, no harm done. So this is the result, this is the solution. I go like this, solution, because the question is bomb shelters stopping rockets being fired? Is this undermining what became very acceptable of rockets being fired towards civilian populations? Of course not. So seeing this kind of visual, just showing again how unique this experience actually is, and the outcome of the solutions giving for this town today. So that's the visual you can see today in Sderot, the bomb shelter capital of the world. This is video number 4.
Since the Gaza war in January 2009, Israel has invested $500 million shekels in building 5,000 new bomb shelters. This project, spread over 3 years, is like no other in the world. Wandering around Sderot today, you would be amazed at the amount of building going on in the town. Entire neighborhoods are being turned into construction zones, building 3- and 4-story high bomb shelters attached to old apartment buildings. Sderot Media Center has been sharing this unique image and experience with thousands of visitors from around the globe. Seeing is believing. The bomb shelter capital of the world. Sderot being the only town in the 21st century where an entire civilian population has been targeted and threatened for the past decade by thousands of Qassam rockets fired from Gaza. Visit Sderot and experience this reality for yourself. It's a little less than an hour drive from Tel Aviv and a little more than an hour from Jerusalem. See what Israel has done to protect their citizens from rocket fire by Hamas-controlled Gaza. Learn about the global consequences of unbalanced media coverage on the Arab-Israeli conflict, while at the same time, listen to the human side of the story about life and hope for a better future of peace and security on Israel's borders.
Okay, so That's just the documentation of building up the entire bomb shelters. And this is most of our job today. Back in Sderot is welcoming the international community, experiencing firsthand, hearing the stories from the people themselves, just seeing visually these very unique experiences they're not find any other place in the country or in the world. And if you could go to the pictures we have over here, just showing you how special this really is. And as a photojournalist, trying to capture these unique images that will define this entire experience in just one photograph. If you go into the next photograph, okay, this is a menorah made of the rockets themselves, which light the entire city during our holiday, which again showing the resilience of the people themselves. Something that was used for darkness is being used for something to light up the entire city. Going to the next image. This is the most powerful aspect. I'll show you this from up close. You have a protected playground, a protected caterpillar that was built for children. Now what does that make sense? What's happening there in the background? Cranes building up entire new complex buildings, meaning that people are choosing to move into this town today. Before I ask that question, why do people still live in this town? Let me show you again these images that I have over here. I'll pass this around as well. You have here a drummer made of Qassam rockets. A lot of arts and crafts, a lot of people expressing themselves through music in different ways to get out the story. And down below you have an entire new complex building being built up with this drummer. I was just showing again this part of the resilience aspect. Keep on building up. This is the caterpillar with the cranes and buildings being built up, having a creative bomb shelter. For me as a photojournalist, when you capture in one picture a playground and a bomb shelter in just one frame, what other country in the world? You tell me, what any other country in the world has a playground and a bomb shelter in the same photograph? Yeah, that just shows again how unique this experience actually is, that somehow became part of the daily life, and somehow people are still coping with this rocket reality. This is the menorah I was telling you about. Down below, this is the panoramic view of Sderot. You'll be amazed. This is a gorgeous city today, a lot of new park areas. People are choosing, as I said, to going into this town. You can see in the background all these cranes building up all these neighborhoods. These are protected schools, completely reinforced against rockets. Everything is very thick with concrete. You have all these bomb shelters scattered all around, so children feel more secured when they're playing when they're playing outside during recess. Maybe that goes to the question: is why do you think people still live in this town? Does anybody have any kind of clue, any kind of reason why people still live in this town? Why are people choosing to move into this town today? What do you think? Anybody has any kind of idea? Yes, please, Patrick.
Defiance.
Sorry?
Defiance.
Okay.
In spite of all the
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay, because they have hope. Because it's safe. Now it's safe, right? Safer. Okay. Yeah. Because it's their home. Okay. Does anybody see themselves living in this kind of situation, this kind of reality? And if so, can we make these kind of decisions for our children? These very moral aspects about living this part of the region is very, very powerful, very hard to explain. Getting deeper into explaining about this moral dilemma on the personal level, on the national level, is very powerful to experience firsthand. On the personal level, by the way, I'll never forget, like a year ago, I heard a mother describing to me that while she was driving around the city, she had a siren go off. She jumped out of her seat. She went to her back seat needing to choose what child to grab in first, so she could run as close as she can towards the wall, towards the shelter. All this more dilemma. Who do you protect first? My first experience, by the way, being under rocket fire, was being in a Moroccan synagogue during a Friday night services, during the Sabbath. Having, as we were praying, we had a siren going off, having no bomb shelter. I guess the only thing you were able to do was sit down and pray. And in less than 15 seconds, a huge explosion right next to the synagogue. Everybody that jumped out of their seats, half the people, they ran aside to see if the rocket hit their own home. And my personal and first experience was seeing a father not knowing what child to grab on first to protect. That was my experience being under rocket fire. I was pretty emotional, I'll be honest, for a couple of good months. For not just seeing an experience, asking myself, who am I to compare myself to families that have been living with this kind of rocket reality for the past 7 years at the time, that have been sending their children to unprotected classrooms. I'll be honest, this is the question I would ask families. Part of my experience is arriving to a family first thing in the morning. I'll be honest, for 3 years, I had my weapon on my shoulder, which became my camera. When I had a siren go off, I would grab my camera first. Only then I ran for shelter. I felt the obligation to document those first seconds before and after the rocket fire. I'll be honest, half of my adult life I've been dealing with this rocket reality. If it's exposing it, if it's documentation, if it's speaking about it, pretty intense kind of work. That's why I'll tell you in a second why I moved on to the next experience, because it's pretty intense doing this kind of work for many years. I'd arrived to a family. Before I forget, what I have here is this is my photo album. I've been documenting, once I get to a family's house, it's pretty personal and dramatic for me as well. And I focused on the Jewish symbols inside the homes that were hit. Try to make things a bit more personal. So I documented if it's the Sabbath candles that we light every Friday night. If you ever heard of if it's synagogues that were hit by direct hit, half an hour before, this synagogue here that was hit by direct hit, half an hour before, 400 people were celebrating, bringing a new Torah scroll into the synagogue, half an hour before. Okay, I've arrived there 5 minutes later, seeing young teenage girls, elderly, children completely traumatized, 3 years of combat service in the Israeli army. I've never experienced something so horrifying in my life. This got like 5 seconds of rating, how a few were slightly injured, a few more treated for shock. A live experience of a live miracle. As I said, do not take my word. Every single person has its own unique experience and story to be telling you how the 2 seconds before, 2 minutes before, them themselves, their children were standing right at that point where the rocket has exploded. Every single person. That's my guarantee to you. And I have here, have you heard of the Khamsa symbol? This is the Jewish luck charm that's adopted by the Jewish communities from the Arab Muslim countries, the hand of luck, the hand of symbol against the bad eye. So I did a whole photo exhibition of the Jewish symbols of the Khamsa, the hand symbol, inside the homes that were hit. So that was for me, making things very personal. And I was very dramatic doing this kind of work. And I would ask the question after documentation, I would ask the family, so why are you guys still living in this town? It's a very legitimate question, not that obvious, right? And the answers I'll get 3 different levels to that answer. First of all, the first basic answer to that, the real estate went down 50% 7-8 years ago. Even though today it went up over 120%, but back then it went down 50%. So this is a working class environment, the social economics of middle and low income. Most people they're not able to afford to leave their houses. They're not able to sell or rent out their apartments. They're pretty much stuck in this town. Simple as that, very basic answer. The second level to that, people have left Sderot and they moved to the nearest city. Okay, if you go back to the map, all the different big cities all around southern center of Israel, they've been under missile fire there as well, like Ashkelon, Ashdod, Beersheba. If you guys ever heard of these cities, biblical cities, they've been under missile fire there as well. You could see on the coast, on top of Gaza, north of Gaza, you could see Ashkelon, Ashdod. Ashdod is the 5th biggest city today in Israel, the most bombarded city during escalations, during war times. So these people have been under rocket fire there as well. So they came back to Sderot, getting a sponsored bomb shelter by the government. And third reason I personally get from families, which is part answering what you're seeing right now with all the cranes being built up. People are choosing to move into this town. People actually tell me that they're not leaving their homes now because if they leave their homes now, these rockets are going to be going on to the next town. It's amazing to realize that what this town today is standing for. It really is that powerful, having a microcosmic of the entire Israeli society, of the entire Western civilization, living together peacefully in one place, living in the shadows of what's called the ideology of radical Islam. And that's how powerful this actually is today. And during confrontations, during escalations, that this balance of media coverage on this part of the region impacts all around the world. Next time, having a Gaza war, You'd be seeing the massive demonstrations happening right over here, which can turn very fast to violent demonstrations. Being here today as an eyewitness in the live documentation, this is the importance of getting out the word. And before I forget, after the presentation, if you're willing to put down your names and emails, just for us to have a dialogue going on, for us to keep on sending information once a month. If it's a newsletter, if it's a new article, a new statistic, a new human story, for us just communicating for the future is very, very important for our sake back at home. I'll be honest, getting out the information, having more people spreading the word, brings true hope to both sides of the region back at home. Having a balance of understanding truly does give hope to both sides of the region, as a proven fact today. I have much more to talk about that aspect as we go on. My personal experience and story, as I said before, you saw that photo album going around right now, having this live documentation, being very dramatic, experiencing this rocket fire by myself. Like my dad says, I was too busy chasing rockets than girls. That was my main problem for many years, doing this work for many years, very intensively. Once I got married, I needed to leave Sderot. I was just way too intense doing this kind of work of documentation, chasing rockets, hosting people from around the world almost every other day. I moved on. I needed to have a break also for myself, to breathe a little bit. And I moved what you have over here, what's been presented over here. And thanks to John being able to print a couple of our photographs, I moved to the northern part of the Judean desert. And for me I fell in love back with the land of Israel by going out over here, being exposed to the beauty, enchanted areas on the land of Israel. That was my next aspect where I actually moved on to. And what I like to present today is basically showing the beauty, enchanted area of Israel. People do not believe this is actually the land of Israel. All this is a Judean desert. Who would believe how gorgeous this actually is? And seeing the blossoming of the Judean desert, this is prophecy coming true. Prophecy coming true, how Jews are coming back to the land and worshiping the land itself, worshiping the God. And just seeing this firsthand is something amazing. And let me just share with you this short video, which is a nice summary of 3 years of documentation of the entire Judean desert on the outskirts of Jerusalem, trying to show how this is all connected together. This is my other side of my photography work, and also part of my presentation showing the beauty enchanted of the land itself. So for you to leave with this kind of taste of the beauty of the land, to encourage you to come visit us also in our homes as well. Okay, so let me just show, this is number 6 video. This is for me to show what I've been doing the past couple of years, giving myself personal hope of the beauty of the land, and to try and share these images with people around the world. Herodian. A fortified palace complex located 12 kilometers south of Jerusalem is one of the top historical and archaeological sites of Israel. Constructed by master of architecture, the Judean king Herod in 23 BCE, the Herodian was built as a summer palace with a panoramic view overlooking Jerusalem and the Judean desert. The Herodian is the highest peak in the Judean desert, rising nearly 2,500 feet above sea level, and can be spotted from almost every point of northern Judea and southern Jerusalem. As a photojournalist, I'm greatly inspired by the unique topography of the desert frontier. It soon became apparent that in almost every photo I captured, there in the background stood the magnificent Herodian in all its glory. In this photography show, I share some of the many photographs I have taken of this region, all having one thing in common: the Herodian. The Judean desert can be seen in spectacular full bloom and at the height of its glory from late January to mid-March. The desert bloom is dependent upon the amount of rainfall during the winter months, specifically in the Jerusalem region. Some years this natural phenomenon will last for only a few weeks, while in rain-blessed years this desert bloom can be seen for up to a few months. In 2015, due to the generous amount of rainfall, the blossoming of the Judean desert peaked at its most magnificent. Majestic mountains painted a rich green, sprinkled with carpets of wildflowers in a rainbow of brilliant colors of purple, yellow, and red. The Judean desert is only half an hour from Jerusalem. In fact, it is sometimes called the Jerusalem Desert. In this journey, we will emphasize the magical blooming of the Judean desert, its thousands of years of history, and its connection to Jerusalem. Wadi Tkoa is one of Israel's most spectacular nature reserves. Situated on the African-Syrian Rift, this wadi is famous for its split mountains, exquisitely carved canyons, and well-preserved caves. It is a wondrous memorial to God's creation of heaven on earth. In the silent beauty of the spiritual scene, one can sense the inner feeling of heightened reflection and meditation as we connect with an ancient Jewish history as well as a Christian monastic origin. Sharing these moments through the lens of my camera illustrates the experience of walking in the footsteps of our ancient prophets and the monks whose spirits were nurtured here and thrived, linking the past to the modern days of the Judean desert on the outskirts of Jerusalem in the 21st century. This is the optimism of my kind of work, summarizing 3 years. Thank you. It is this year that my plan is going around the world and showing this photography work to inspire people visually and spiritually as much as we can through photography, because the world does not recognize that what you're seeing here right now is connected to Israel or belongs to Israel. And today, this year, we're entering our 50th year of having Jerusalem united. And we chant around the world, in the Jewish world and the Christian world, keep Jerusalem united. It starts with regional Jerusalem, where we live today. So I urge you on your next visit to Israel, come visit us, see these sites with your own eyes, and learn the first aspect, how for thousands of years this belonged to the Jewish people. And this was connected to Jerusalem throughout the years. And as we said before, the world does not recognize this part of Israel being part of Israel. And it's our obligation to speak up and present the truth in any creative way as possible. If you ask me, reaching on to the next generation, trying to touch people, their minds and their hearts, in any way as possible, this is our challenge today we have. This is my personal challenge as I try reaching in a creative kind of way, showing the land of Israel and showing what this land today is standing for, how prophecy is coming true as well. So this is again a summary in 40 minutes more or less to give me my personal experiences and stories in the past decade. I call this a decade of Israeli storytelling and photography. I have much more to share, much more to show, much more to get deeper into the conflict itself. This is the basic, just to feel just a little bit what this country is standing for today, and this town Sderot is standing for, and at the same time seeing the beauty of the land that you're so welcome to come visit firsthand. And before I forget, you're all welcome into our homes. Just let me know before that. I could tell my wife you guys are coming over, but literally you guys are so much welcome to come visit firsthand. We have a guest house. We always have a guest room for welcoming people, like an Abraham does, welcoming people into his house. This is our true blessing that we have today of welcoming people. So with this note, I have here a nice gift for John from Israel. This is the heart of David. Okay. The heart and star of David, and keep on bringing up the truth and being a voice in hearts. We really appreciate that. Okay. Okay, in the back over there, what I have here, I brought souvenirs. I'm way overloaded with. I brought a lot of stuff from Israel. If it's posters showing the photography work, if it's these photo albums that I have over here, what I tried to explain. Have you all heard of the Herodian, King Herod's palace, a 2,000-year-old monument? That's for me having a Jewish symbol of a 2,000-year-old Jewish symbol. In every single photograph I have in this photo album, you'd find the Herodian. People that say we have no connection to the land, no history, excuse me, you come to this land and you have the highest monument in the entire Judean desert, just out there. Nobody can ever have any claim that we have no connection, no historical aspect to the land. This is for me in a creative kind of way, presenting this entire region in a creative kind of way. At the same time, whoever wants to see the blossoming of the Judean desert, just seeing how enchanted, how magical this actually is, having the prophecies coming true. You see, this is from last winter. Everything just blossomed during the winter. Absolutely a phenomenal experience, and definitely recommendation if you do come travel during the winter time. Just seeing the Judean desert in its bloom, a really amazing experience to experience firsthand as well. Okay, so with this, I'll stop. Okay, and again, names and emails in the back, you're more than welcome to put down just for us to communicate. It would be crucial for us to send you information once a month or even just keeping in touch. Okay, we can open this up to questions and answers.
Could you just show your appreciation to Noam, please? Praise God. So, we won't go on for long, but I would like to open it up to questions, any questions that you may have regards to Israel. I'd like to just open it up very quickly first. Personally, you know, I believe that Israel is really the battlefront for Western civilization. And unfortunately, much of Europe and the Western world doesn't appreciate that, because you know what Israel are coming against really, or what is coming against Israel is Islam, and they've made no secret of the fact that it's their desire to enforce a worldwide caliphate, and that is irrespective of whether you hold liberal or conservative views. They have one desire and one mission, and that is to subjugate the world. Islam means submit. And you know, I think it's unfortunate that in Europe we're seeing the rise of that anti-Semitic hatred. And yet I think it's wonderful as we you know, we're looking at this slideshow, we're also being given I guess a side of Israel that a lot of us don't necessarily see, the beauty of the area, the beauty of the landscape, and the resilience of the people. And you know, when I was there in January, I was really so blessed by the warmth of the people, and there's just something very special about the Jewish people. And there is a connection between the Jewish people and the Christians, because ultimately they are the older brother. And we owe them so much. Every time we open the Bible, it's so important for us to remember that. But I guess the first thing I'd like to clarify is in terms of, in the media, it's always given as the West Bank. Now, a lot of Christians are a little confused about that, particularly if they've never been to visit Israel and they don't understand. So you have Gaza, obviously you have Israel, and then you have the area the media refers to as the West Bank. However, in the Bible, it's called
Judea and Samaria.
Judea and Samaria. Now, most of you that have read the Old Testament will have come across Judea and Samaria mentioned, and it's always mentioned with regards to the Jewish people and as being part of the nation of Israel. And I think that's very, very important to understand that, because you know, because as long as we are using incorrect terms, really we're playing into this narrative that seeks to erase the connection that exists between the Jews and the land. And again, that connection is thousands of years old. So you live obviously in Serdot on the Gaza border. Now recently it's come up that there's been more of these tunnels that have been dug by Hamas.
That's correct. Well, we mentioned a lot of different things over here right now. And by the way, when we say West Bank of what, by the way? Can anybody guess? West Bank of what? West Bank of Jordan. Okay, Jordan controlled the West Bank or Judea and Samaria for 19 years. And that's why it's called today the West Bank. Completely ridiculous. Okay, throughout history, Jews have, through thousands of years, have always lived in the Judea and Samaria. It's an actual fact. Okay, and by the way, when you come to our homes, having this open land in front of you, okay, how many people know that between 9 to 13% of the West Bank, Judea and Samaria is inhabited with people? Okay, there's land for there's enough room for everyone. Bring this focus in. This is the roots of the problem, the roots of the conflict. It makes no sense whatsoever when you come out to this region. Okay, so that's a lot also to experience firsthand. You have this open land, there's room for everyone inside this land. That all the focus put upon here makes no sense whatsoever. We spoke about the West Bank, going back to the Gaza border on Sderot. Sderot is not considered West Bank or Gaza. This is considered Israel by all means. And the reason why it's being under rocket fire, because it's been never recognized as a Jewish Israeli town. A lot to get into, how this conflict has nothing to do what we call about territory. It's about our legitimacy just to live in Israel. And by the way, for me to get into a debate, okay, on campus or during a presentation, that one question should be asked here today. You tell me what is our rights just to live in the land of Israel, in the state of Israel. And if you do not accept my rights to live here, if you do not accept our legitimate, international, historical, biblical rights just to live in the land of Israel, we have no common base, we have no common ground here. There's nothing we actually can speak about, can actually get across today. And that's where it actually starts today with a debate. If you have people protesting or people that are very against Israel, do you recognize Israel to have its own country? I'll be honest, there's one thing I've learned traveling around the world as a young adult, literally traveling around the world. There's one thing I've learned. Israel today is the only country in the world that its legitimacy as a state is being questioned. Our human rights for self-determination as a Jewish state, like no other place in the world, has been undermined like never before. This has a lot to do with the disinformation, lack of education. And I think what bonds us together today with the Christian world and the Jewish world today is identity crisis, as the spiritual war that we face today, the spiritual war. In our terms, we call it the identity crisis. Who are we? What are we doing here today? What is our background? What is our history? And if we're not connected to our own history, then it's very hard for us to keep on this kind of battle. And you see this today, especially in the Western world, inside the Israeli and Jewish world as well. Who is it we are? Where is it we coming from today? And it's our obligation to remind people, we are the people of the Lord, of God, and we have, as we said before, the purpose of being here today in this world today. So it's both of our people, both of our religions today that feeling very, very spiritual war, very powerfully today, rising against very dark elements around the world that are becoming more and more supportive and more acceptable throughout the world.
I don't know any of you that follow on social media. There was a video from a guy in Galway in college, who ironically had been in college for about 10 years. But anyway, that's another argument. But this guy was filmed screaming at the speaker in college, and it went around the world, telling him to get off his effing campus. I didn't realize he actually owned the campus. But anyway, screaming at him simply by virtue of the fact that he was Jewish, by virtue of the fact that he was Israeli, and therefore, according to his worldview, he didn't have a right to speak, or he didn't have a right to have an opinion. And it was really, really aggressive, just screaming. And the irony is that a few months later, I saw that he was holding an anti-racism night in Galway through some anti-racism movement he was starting, but he had an imam speaking about Islamophobia, and I just sent him a message and I said, I assume, or at least I hope, you're going to have an Israeli speaking on the night just for balance. And then I stopped and I said, oh, I forgot. the YouTube video. And within a few moments, the comment was deleted. He never responded. But, you know, there's such an arrogance with many of these people, particularly with those involved in the whole BDS movement, which again, I believe is just a politically correct vehicle for people to express their anti-Semitism in the modern world, because people know it's not politically correct to be anti-Semitic, to hate Jews. So therefore, I don't hate Jews, I just hate Israel. But Israel just happens to be where the Jews live, and just happens to be their nation. But it's this seek to delegitimize the nation. But I guess one reason why I wanted Noam to come over here is because I'm a father. And I have 5 little babies. I have 5 beautiful children. And, you know, just even as he was talking there, I just remarked to myself, I don't know what I would do in 15... I mean, to try and grab my children in 15 seconds is just not physically possible. Probably could do it in 15 minutes. But again... you know, just reflecting, and it's something I've thought a lot upon, is the people of Serdot and these other areas, in terms of what they live through on a daily basis, just people with families, with children, just trying to live their lives. Any of you that follow the media have been seeing over the last number of months the amount of Jewish people that have been stabbed on the street just simply because they're Jews. And again, it's that same age-old hatred that's been around for thousands of years, manifested itself through various people down through the centuries, like Haman, like Hitler, like all these other guys. But again, I think it's important for us as the church that we stand with Israel, because they're decent people, they're a decent nation, they're a democracy. You look at the dysfunctional nations that surround Israel, and like I said, in Hamas, in Gaza, enforcing Sharia law, and yet I just think it's tragic that you see Christians supporting Palestine. People like this guy in college, you'll see the BDS marches and you'll hear the chants, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. And there's a self-righteousness with these people. And yet, you know, when you think about from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free, what are they saying? Free of what? Free of Jews. They're talking about genocide. And again, you know, Israel has had a number of wars, which they've all won because God is with them, whether you like it or not. And but the reality is, Israel cannot afford to lose even one war. And this is, that's not much of a question, is it? But I guess I just wanted you to see that background, because this is what we're dealing with. And this is why we have him here tonight, because, you know, we want to bypass all of the propaganda. And I just wanted you tonight to hear a different perspective, because it's the perspective of those that are not the aggressors. These are the people who are just trying to live their lives, and they're under attack. So,
if I could also elaborate on that. So look, I think conflict is very complex, with no doubt. It's never black and white. You always have gray areas. I'll be honest, but when you talk about the intentions and policies of each side, that is completely black and white. Thinking about going back to our region, these rockets are aiming towards civilian population. On the other hand, with our retaliation, okay, there's one statistic to leave here today. Okay, only one statistic to explain what is it we're up against 1 kilometer away from our borders is, according to the Air Force Commander of Israel, 97% of rockets are being fired from among civilian populations in Gaza. Meaning the rockets are being fired behind homes, behind residential areas, behind schools, UN schools, mosques, hospitals, towards Israel. Meaning if Israel has to protect its citizens by just pinpointing that target itself in Gaza, by doing so, most chances you have a civilian infrastructure, a civilian injury, casualty among that target. When it bleeds, it leads. That's the media term in this part of the region. And the entire focus of the media on the devastation or casualties, injuries coming out from the Gaza Strip, being broadcast around to the world, impacting over here, having mass demonstrations, having no clue what just happened a couple seconds beforehand. So if you want to know what's happening with this conflict, you'll be seeing what's been educated for the next generation. And that's where it starts with the education. We have the latest school books have been translated into English, seeing how our entire generation are being taught to hate, to kill. Literally, this is what's been taught in the school books. Anybody here know what UNRWA is? A lot of critical points getting to the roots of the conflict itself. UNRWA is the only UN organization in the world keeping refugee camps as they are, with no rehabilitation all around the Middle East, keeping Palestinian refugees as they are. When around the world, 50 million refugees after World War II, they're all rehabilitated, moving on with their lives. The only ones that were kept in the same kind of conditions with no rehabilitations were the Palestinian Arabs, and dreaming to be fighting to when Israel was established, when Israel was declared as a state. That's why Sderot is being under rocket fire. There's no excuse. The reason in the world that could be giving for firing rockets towards civilian populations, the fact that we have an excuse for that just shows what kind of information we've been getting all this time. And so our challenge to explain again, if people want to raise their voices about the Irish aid, okay, about the Irish aid to the Palestinians, people should be saying, where's the money actually going to? By the way, Hamas became the second richest terrorist organization in the world. Hamas leadership has between $2 to $4 billion in their own personal bank accounts. Okay, and money has been invested in the tunnel industry underneath Gaza. That was the last question about the tunnels. The whole different strategic aspect. You can imagine going to sleep on the Gaza border, not knowing if a tunnel will be coming out on your own bedroom. Okay, that's a whole different strategic aspect of the tunnel threat. It took 2 years for the Israeli army to find any kind of technology to be dealing with the tunnel threat itself. It was the first time 2 summers ago that ever since Israel was declared a state, it was the first time in 67 years that women and children were sent out from these areas on the Gaza border and sent to the center of Israel. It's just way too dangerous living on the Gaza border. All the trucks that goes into Gaza from Israel, a lot of those trucks, you have the fertilizer, sugar, that's been used for the Palestinian population. When put together into a chemical, these are used as the explosives of the Qassam rockets. So you have money going into Gaza, infrastructure going to Gaza, being used for terrorist activities. That's only part of the moral aspect dealing today with a terrorist organization controlling a population and territory. A lot more to explain about that, but the intentions and policies of each side, that is completely black and white. And that's the challenge we have in a very limited time to explain what each side is actually standing for today.
When I was there in January, at night, I was in this hotel, lovely 4-star hotel. There was security, it was very safe. I used to struggle to go to sleep at night. I used to think about these people in Serdot, and I would say, I don't think I would sleep if I thought that there was a possibility that some dude could dig up in my garden from a tunnel. And is it true that each of these tunnels costs millions of euros?
€1.5 billion were invested in the tunnel industry. Okay, in the past 6-7 years, there was 5.2 billion euros raised by 70 countries to rebuild Gaza 7-8 years ago. Where's the money gone to? To private pockets and the tunnel industry. So that's a lot of them. People are being kept in the same conditions with no hope, with no future. Again, if you ask me as a humanitarian, okay, there's much more suffering today happening today in the Gaza Strip. We see again about the intentions and policies of each side, all this money, budgets put into Gaza, nothing's been dealt with for the population, but for the terrorist organization using this for their own agendas and using it to build a whole tunnel state underneath Gaza. This is what we're dealing with today. And unfortunately today, what's new today, since this past June, we're having residents hearing drilling going on during the night, which means we have tunnels being dug non-stop. We have rockets being fired. An increase of rocket fire since this past June, a year ago. If you had any wild guess, who do you think has been taking responsibility for firing rockets towards Israel from Gaza? Who do you think? Nope. ISIS. We have ISIS 1 kilometer away from us. Almost any terrorist organization you can think of are in the Gaza Strip amongst the population itself, fighting against each other. And of course, Israel is very much to blame for anything that actually happens in the Gaza Strip.
And you know, one of the perverse things is a lot of the money that's going over to Gaza is coming from Europe. And we're literally subsidizing terrorism. And I was appalled the last time I heard Noam speak about these terror schools. Any of you might have looked into this, where children are literally being taught to hate and to kill and to, you know, we send our kids to soccer camp and different things in the summer to play, and they're teaching their kids, they're raising a whole generation on a diet of hate. And I was absolutely appalled to find out that it was 2 countries who paid for the literature.
There are 4 countries in Europe that are paying for the Palestinian school books, actually being printed over here in these countries. It was Finland, Ireland was the second one, Belgium, I forget the 4th one right now, but Ireland was one of the countries. So people should be demanding their own representatives, where's the money actually going to? And we have all the documentation, all the material for that. I'll be more than happy to send this for people to see exactly where their tax-paying money is actually going to.
And you know, this isn't in the media, and I think that's a major problem. So again, the other one thing I just wanted to, and I'm going to give it to questions then, is it true that, you know, Hezbollah run Lebanon on the, which border is that? Is that the western border of Israel, northern border? Is it true that there's something like 100,000 rockets pointed?
150,000 rockets, missiles that Hezbollah actually has. They're considered the second strongest terrorist organization today in the world. They have more missiles than most European countries put together. Okay, so exactly a week ago, we just marked 10 years to the Second Lebanon War. The Lebanon War, we had like 150 rockets per day. Today, they're saying that the next war, they can reach over 1,000 missiles per day for a couple of good weeks. And so this is, again, we know for a fact that one hand, a very peaceful country, and whoever visited Israel feel this warmth of the country itself, of the people, and feeling very secured. On the other hand, we're under threat by all means.
And I think the thing to bear in mind is Lebanon was once predominantly a Christian country. Syria, Iraq, Turkey, these were all originally Christian countries. The Middle East was the birthplace of Christianity. And yet we see that Islam has literally taken over and literally destroyed anything that was not Islamic.
It's actually more than that. Bethlehem, right, where Jesus was born. If you had a wild guess, what's the percentage remain Christian in the birthplace of Jesus? 1 to 2% remain Christian in Bethlehem today.
So, I know it's 9 o'clock, but I would like to open it up. If anybody's got any questions, just put your hand up if you have a question. You can just carry the mic to them.
I just want to thank you for the work you do. It is so inspiring and moving. And I just want to thank you so much for what you do. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just have a question about the, response you've gotten in your career and the things that you do, the places you've been, and you've mentioned you've been traveling and exhibiting. Have you come across opposition, or has it been positive, or just kind of curious about that and the impact you have on people and how, just how that looks like.
That's a very good point. As I said, as a young adult, I've been doing this from a very relatively young age, traveling around the world, getting this first-hand experience, and overall seeing the impact, I think, having on people themselves, but also it's becoming a more difficult task to try speaking up as well. And this is part of our experience as well. As I said, many places when I speak, I have to have a bodyguard, okay? I've been threatened not once and not twice. If you just check out my name on YouTube, the 5th, 6th video, you can see my face turned into a Terminator with red eyes. I was visually, demonized visually. That was not easy. At the same time, I'll be honest, my challenge today is preaching to the choir, what's so called. Reaching out to the Christian communities, to the Jewish communities. People always say, why preach to the choir? Well, if you ask me, we have to make the choir to sing. We have to provide our own people with basic tools, basic information to stand up for the honest truth. Because this is an identity crisis, a spiritual war, we have to be focusing on the next generation with accurate information. Not doing so, we're losing our own people today. So that's the task we have today, is trying to, every single person we can touch today, just to draw them a bit closer to us. We've done our part. As an individual, that's my task today. Every person that can make any kind of relationship, communication, that's my purpose today. So that's what I could tell you. You want people to just come up if they want, or if you won't be able to move up if they want to ask questions, or whatever you want.
Short question. How would you perceive the general morale of the Israeli people today with all of the things that they've experienced in these years gone by, with all the missiles being fired over relentlessly into the country?
Well, like I was trying to describe, the true Israeli resilience, the national resilience, is amazing to see. Even for me, doing this kind of work for many years, and also living in Sderot, and all of a sudden seeing these huge new neighborhoods being built up, people are choosing to moving to this town, having a train station that just opened up like 2 years ago, the first and only protected train station. You have, parallel to Gaza, you have rail tracks connecting this region to the center of Israel. I mean, Israel has bloomed in the past decade like no other country in the world. In the Western world, being more exact. So you'd be amazed how, we try moving on with our lives as fast as possible. What's called a startup nation, for per capita, we have the most people inventing new things. And that's, as I was leaving the airports in Bedein in Israel, you have a whole wall of fame seeing all the different Nobel Prizes that the Israelis actually won, trying to, give a lot of hope to humanity around the world. And that's amazing about, for me, living and being brought up in Israel, seeing this true hope that people do have of building up the country. And this is the best time in Jewish history that Jews had the best time ever having in their lives, ever, and throughout history. Even in times of King Solomon, this is even better than that, they say today. But having said that, when you have those when he goes up high, you always have the other side of it, of this threats that's also arising. If it's the Iran aspect, the nuclear war, the whole deal with Iran today, people are mentioning how $100 billion of assets is opened up for Iran. Who knows how much is invested in terrorism. So you always have this contrast around the world. Overall, on one hand, you feel this true warmth, this true resilience. On the other hand, you have this threat going up all the time. That's why this whole presentation, actually the title that I called my story, is calling it From Rockets to Rainbows. And that's just part of the experience of this contrast, this true contrast in the Israeli society, being under rocket fire. On the other hand, seeing the beauty, enchanted aspect of Israel. That's overall, I think, what it defines Israeli society overall.
Praise God. Well, I'd like you to just show your appreciation tonight for Noam. Amen.